Are you ready?
Good news, everyone!
I'm the surprise in your cereal box. I'm
great! Everybody else sucks!
I said, are you ready?
Yes, sir, random kid I just met.
It's Ciely.
Hooray! People are paying attention to me.
That's right, you're always blaming me. So, my reputation exceeds me.
It's time to check the link.
Oh, wait, you serious? Let me laugh even harder.
You know what? You just made the list!
It's all in football.
Sure, we talk about it all the time.
Really?
No, burn.
What is up, you ducks? It is All in Football on FTN Network with Chris Meaney, as Lauren is returning from the Expo and the Queen's Classic. We were back together Saturday. Make sure, reminder, we're on Sirius XM 9 to 11 to start your weekend.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
As
You are right. Correct.
Coda, get out of here. She's trying to knock stuff over behind me. Reminder, there's only 2 weeks left. 2 weeks left to join the contest to potentially win a free year of FTN Plus. Because if you haven't seen, tell your friends, remind everybody, there's still people asking us on Twitter, whatever the hell it's called now, where to find the podcast because they can't find it. The subscription doesn't work anymore. They got combined on iTunes. So because of iTunes, we're asking you to resubscribe, re-review, but put your review in there and add a Twitter handle or your handle on the show or whatever it is, whatever handle it is, so I know to put you in for the contest. And we'll give away the contest in 2 weeks, the entry for FTN Plus, an entire year of the goodness, especially come around hockey season when they can get your great picks, Meaney, and make some money.
Oh, well, I'm looking forward to hockey season, but it is football season. But I do appreciate a little plug there. Yeah, I mean, iTunes, something going on there. I've noticed a lot of you guys have not only like resubscribed, rated, reviewed, and had a little message there. So we do appreciate that. Continue to do it if you're just stumbling across the show. We'll be with you all year long.
Yeah, hopefully we'll get back by week one. Get everybody back to where they need to be.
Yes.
And we are going to talk week one of the fantasy football season, but week one of the preseason. And if any of this stuff that we saw in week one actually matters, because the funny thing, just as context or whatever, Nicole is sitting here talking to her son on the phone. He's like, what does Jake think about the preseason? I was like, it doesn't matter. That's my simple answer. There are a few things, I could have sat there and like turned the phone call into a half-hour show, but that's what this is for. So I could have told them, check the link, listen to the show.
Check the link.
The first one I want to talk about, it's been a while because we didn't have the Sirius XM show this past Saturday because of the Expo, but this is one of the first games that happened. The interesting thing from the Singletary's perspective, I almost said the Bills for Singletary, but remember, he's not with the Texans. So I was hesitant. You know this. I was hesitant on Dameon Pierce. Now this is from you and I, who were champion Dameon Pierce last year. It's like, draft Dameon Pierce. He's the best running back in that backfield. It might take a few weeks, but it will happen. And it did happen. Mm-hmm. You and I were very heavy on him, on Tyler Algier as well. But I was like, hey, they signed Devin Singletary. That's kind of a significant backup option. But the usage in week one wasn't in the passing game that much. It wasn't like third downs and that. He was pretty much running as the lead with the backups, which actually would suggest, and why I moved Dameon Pierce up, Meaney, is that he's the backup to Pierce. Agumbawale is actually the pass-catching option to Dameon Pierce, who also isn't going to look like he's being involved that much. Dameon Pierce could be in tune or in store for another bell cow workload, and there's very few of those these days.
No, you're absolutely right. There aren't. And that's why I think we were gushing over a little bit of Rachaad White. Like, yeah, he could be a bust, but he's going as RB27 and he could be a bell cow back. I think Pierce, the same sort of deal this time last year. I mean, you were spot on. Like, it's not just us. I think the fantasy community were a little bit slow to have him ranked where, he ended up falling, but this was the moment in time where he took off in the preseason and he jumped up, climbed draft boards from round 10 to round 4, getting a big bulk of the work in preseason. And now they're viewing him as the guy. Like, you take the preseason off here. Like, we'll have Singletary and some of these other backups. So I'm with you. I like him quite a bit still. Singletary is a veteran back at this point. I don't think he's going to steal any goal line work. He wasn't used that way in Buffalo. I like Pierce a lot, man. I think he'd be first and second down. I don't know. Like, does he have 2 catches a game? Can he have 2 catches a game? Sure. Like, he's not going to be a big player in the passing game, but I think he could get 35 grabs. Towards the end of the season, he was catching. He was catching passes.
30 of 38 last year. He caught 30 passes as a rookie, so even in not a full
30
season.
Should be the floor, right? Like he should be able to do that again. Yeah. Oh yeah.
So if you want to check out a little self-publicizing, self-promotion, if I could speak correctly, over at The Athletic, I released my 6 bold predictions. Dameon Pierce being the top 10 running back is in there. But I'm not just like, yeah, but look, I
like that.
It's a bold, first of all, it's a bold prediction. Second of all, I say this is how it can happen. All 6 of my bold predictions is like, this is how it can happen. I'm not just out there like, oh yeah, Wandale Robinson's a top 5 wide receiver. The end. Haha. And like I got 2 right, and next year I'm gonna be like, I told you. No,
yeah,
it's 6 bold predictions with a good paragraph or 2 behind it of like how it could happen. So it's always fun to do bold. They're like legit bold predictions.
You can't just say things for the sake of saying things like Kenny Gainwell RB1. Like we're not getting crazy.
Oh, we're gonna talk. Hey, I was gonna talk about him, so we might as well jump right to that. There you go for a transition here. There's been talk. Did you just mute yourself?
No.
Oh, okay. I thought it looked like you were talking, and I was like, wait, what just hell happened? We're going to talk about your Eagles. Kenny Gainwell has had reports all of a sudden that he's the best looking back for your Eagles, and then gets work that could suggest he actually is the lead. Report after your Eagles game, meaning if the roster cuts were today, Rashad Penny could be the odd man out, which is just the strangest thing to potentially see, because we've seen how good Penny can be when healthy, and they brought him in. Granted, we knew the deal itself didn't look like it was guaranteed for him to stick around, but you would have thought the odd man out was probably Boston Scott, even though we sat here on shows in previous seasons being like, no, he's going to be the goal line option when others have gotten hurt like Miles Sanders. But all that being said, are you buying into Rashad Penny potentially not even being on the team, which means he's a wasted pick whenever you take him? And you took Kenny Gainwell in the flex. And are you looking at Kenny Gainwell as potentially not even, like, let's just say he's probably not the lead bell cow option, but is he potentially in the conversation of like a Samaje Perine?
Yeah, I think so. Towards the latter there about Kenny Gainwell, I think this will be a full-on committee. I am kind of surprised to hear the news that Rashad Penny could get cut, although there were some beat reporters following the team earlier before camps opened up, and they did suggest that. But if you've been following camp, Gainwell has had the most touches in camp. He didn't touch the field in the preseason game. It was Penny and it was Swift. And I'm not super surprised. I think it's more so out of respect, even though this is only his 3rd year. He has been there the longest between those 3 guys. Scott is just the veteran back. And I think hey, even though it's going to be a different playbook, new offensive coordinator, I'm feeling like the Eagles are just like, listen, you're the quote unquote starter. Maybe you take the first carry in week 1, but I still believe that this is going to be a full-on committee. I think that Penny still has an opportunity for first and second down reps. I don't think that they're just going to straight up cut him or release him unless he's just really like awful. And I haven't heard that. Like, I haven't heard that he's looked bad in camp. They've used Swift all over the field, mostly catching passes all over the field. They've even used Penny that way, who's not going to, get a lot of work that way. So I just think this is going to be a straight-on committee. I don't think there's going to be a player that you can trust. But to your point, in the flex league, I mean, Gainwell was in the 14th round, so he's the cheapest. Right. And he may be the guy that's standing there at the end of the day, because Swift and Penny have never shown us that they can handle a full workload. So this is just going to be a mess for fantasy.
Is Swift is he a trap pick?
Yes,
right,
I think he's an easy fade.
He's like mid-20s. Mid-20s is like not terrible, but
it's not terrible. And I understand the ceiling and the upside and the flashiness, but I don't think that he's ever going to get goal line work or first or second down work. Not a lot of it anyway.
Swift or former thorn in his side, David Montgomery. Who would you draft right
Montgomery.
now?
I would take Montgomery. I don't think that's really close for me either. Maybe I'm wrong.
Would you take a flyer on Dalvin Cook since he still doesn't have a team, or would you draft DeAndre Swift?
I would take a flyer on Dalvin Cook. Because wherever he goes, I know he's going to get more carries. Yeah, I'm pretty sour on Swift. I mean, I hope I'm wrong, obviously, like from a homer standpoint. I mean, Philly boy, hopefully he gets an opportunity here. It's a good offense. It's probably a better situation for him because it's a better offensive line. Like Detroit's offensive line is great, but this is a better offensive line. I don't know, man. Like Gainwell's probably the pick for people. Like, let's be honest. He's not getting cut.
No, he's not. So let's talk about it. There's a lot of running backs on this show because
Yeah.
for everybody out there, the tongue in cheek about the preseason doesn't matter. Is overreactions, just like the training camps, the highlight videos, all that type of stuff. But there is something telling, which is what we're kind of going through the theme of today. And make sure you guys are watching, especially week 2, it'll be a little bit more clarity. But who's running? Like when you know me, I say this all the time. Doesn't matter who's running with the ones. But once you get to preseason games and the first team offense is out there, who's playing with the first team offense, who doesn't see the field until the backups come in. All that kind of mix is telling, and that's kind of what we're parsing through right here. There wasn't one in every single game where it really mattered, but there's a couple right here, and one is you maybe like you're gonna have to do this to me, meaning you go, roll it back in. It's a really terrible fishing line, same thing, but pull me back in, baby. Is that what it is? Whoosh,
Yeah,
like that. Yeah,
a little bit.
What was it?
It's kind of weak. Got to get some sound effects in there.
Yeah, we can't do fishing noises clearly.
No,
pull back in the hype. Because Khalil Herbert was with the ones, only played with the ones, looked terrific, broke off a big run. Rashawn Johnson wasn't in until later on. And we know Rashawn Johnson has a clear. But if you just went off that game, that's one game. Again, week 2 will give us more information. Don't overreact too much. Don't put Khalil Herbert inside the top 15 and go nuts with this. But if you're just basing it off that game, it would have suggested that Rashawn Johnson was actually 4th on the depth chart. We know he's not. And that's why I like say, like, this is the things we have to work through. But the fact that he's probably at least 3rd, if not mixing in for number 2, which is what we all expect to happen. Khalil Herbert, you get the excitement back that we had. This is,
wheels up, baby.
And they have wheels up. Khalil Herbert, top, 25, 20? Like, overreaction to one game? Tell me, Meaney.
No, I don't think overreaction. It's interesting. Everybody got in there, right? Like, it's some teams are just thinking... And like with the Packers, like Love in there and all the weapons, I just feel like Chicago's like, here we go. Like, this is week 1 for us. DJ Moore, you're going to be on the field. You're catching passes field. Like, you're going to be on the field throwing balls. Like, and the Khalil Herbert's on there too. So I think it was a great first sign. Like, we both like this guy. We think he has the highest ceiling in the backfield. I'm not surprised about Rashawn Johnson. I think he's still a decent pick, Jake. I feel like, if he falls outside of round 12 and you're getting this guy as your 5th running back, he could be one of those. I said this before. He could be a Cam Akers and a Javonte Williams where maybe towards the end of the season, if there's an injury, I just feel like he'll overtake Deontay Foreman. Like, Foreman's a pass for me. I'm in on Herbert. And then if you don't get Herbert, I think Rashawn Johnson could be decent because we do know that this team wants to run the football. But, yeah, this is Herbert's backfield. I always kind of felt like that. I was a little bit shocked that they signed Foreman and then drafted Johnson, but I think that's a really good first game for him.
We did an athletic mock, and I was I had crossed him off my board because I figured I missed him, and then Brandon Funston took him. I think it was the 11th round, if I'm not mistaken. I was like, and I saw him going. I was like, "Are you kidding me? Like, this is the most disrespect I've ever seen in my life." Like, even if Rashawn Johnson, like, even if there's a committee, or not committee, a timeshare, like what we expect for the Broncos, even if it was a timeshare, he shouldn't be that low. Like,
no, he shouldn't.
And they want to run the ball. No,
like, if you use some of the pace tools that we have over at FTN Daily, FTN Fantasy, you see the Bears, like, they're number 1, even in neutral game script overall. Like, this is a team that that's not going to change this year. Like, they played from behind a lot.
Justin Fields is going to complete 100% of his passes, throwing touchdowns on 67% of his passes.
Listen, I got super excited, even though like Fields was 3 for 3 at $129. I get it. He was throwing behind the line of scrimmage. The pass to DJ was a little screen, but I don't care. I'd like to see that stuff because Dante Pettis is not bringing that to the house. Equinemius St. Brown is not bringing that to the house. They brought in a playmaker to improve, not bringing it to the house. They brought in a playmaker to... Of course, they drafted this 47-year-old punt returner is like, here you go, Fields, here's your weapon. Like, thanks a lot. So DJ Moore is a playmaker, and he's going to make plays for his quarterback, and that all ties in. So there's so many haters out there. Just continue to hate. It's all good, man. Like, DJ Moore is going to help this offense a lot, and we saw that. That's not
so
one
much
game.
DJ Moore and Khalil Herbert right now, and that's going to change. I'm going to be frustrated by the end of the month.
There'll be moments, of course, and this offense won't be fantastic, but they'll have some highlights.
So let's talk about another rookie, and this one's interesting. So this is a team that's been speculated to bring in Dalvin Cook. potentially not happy with the backfield situation. We have injury history with 2 of the running backs, and Devon Achane is not only not even pushed past Jeff Wilson or Raheem Mostert, but again, if you go off the first game, which you're also potentially reading the tea leaves of bringing in Dalvin Cook, potentially still hanging out there, but Achane was 4th, similar to Rashawn. Again, rookie, but for somebody that was potentially supposed to be only used in the passing game because of the passing game upside and his explosiveness, to be that buried in what is essentially a Shanahan offense. It's Mike McDaniel.
Pretty much. Yeah.
How concerned should we be about Achane's usage in the first preseason game?
I like to see these rookies touch the field and get the ball personally. I want to see that. And I was surprised. He was one of the guys that I had kind of on my notes, this is a player I'm going to look for this weekend. I want to see what his type of usage is. I think it's still a little early, but this team clearly is interested in Dalvin Cook. I fully believe those rumors. And it's probably because of what you said about Jeff Wilson and Raheem Mostert. Those guys can't fully... They haven't shown us anyways lately, maybe between them and Achane. That's maybe they're thinking that they can, just like the Eagles backfield, just committee guys, just get us to the end. I don't know. I think Miami's going to bring in Cook. That's my gut feeling.
Even if they don't, Meaney, this is a shout out to anybody who's been listening for at least the last year. It was at least listening in 2022 because I think it came across in 2022. It was a show that I was doing with Stepmom Lauren. For anybody that knows, it might even be 2 years in history, but to bring it all back, it's don't go chasing Dolphins running backs. Please stick to the backfields and the usage, That's
yes. Man, great job for one. Love TLC.
Oh, my voice is awful, by the way.
It's better than our favorite.
God said you don't get any musical talent. This is why we have people like Justin Timberlake. None. You can do sports.
Fair. And Timberlake can't do sports like you. He's a big sports guy, but he can't rank like you, so it's all good.
Congratulations, Timberlake. You can give your career credit to me, giving up my... I just took credit for Timberlake's career.
If we know anything about Kyle Shanahan, it's that he uses a lot of running backs. He's got himself
did it last year
back in CMC, but before that, man, remember when it was all it wasn't Trey Mason. Was it Trey Mason? And it ended up being
Trey Sermon.
Trey Sermon. But Mason was on the squad
Jordan
too,
Mason.
Right?
Yeah, I know. You combine. It might as well be one.
It might as well. You put them together and they still wouldn't.
How about
got 20
Trey Mason Price? How about that? Can we make him?
Yeah.
There you go.
Goodness. But Elijah Mitchell overtook the backfield and he was starting to get some carries. But
cut you off. Trey McMason Price. There you go.
Nice.
The best running back in the history of all things.
Terry Davis Price he's a guy that's just on my taxi squad, and I was looking, I was good thing that this roster is 35 spots deep, or else this guy would just be on the waivers. But I mean, Miami's going to use all these backs. I think it's still too early to write off Achane. I probably view him as the best pick in the backfield at the moment. Him and Mostert. Mostert's fairly cheap as well because everybody just assumes
take the cheapest one if I take anybody.
Exactly. I'm going to take the cheapest one. Everyone's kind of thinking that they're going to sign it back, and they may, and all that. Again, at least it's just a cheap pick. It's not costing you a whole lot.
So we're not going to get to every notable piece of information from week 1. So we'll be back on Wednesday. Meaney and I will be doing this again and get through all the ones we didn't get to, including, by the way, if you want to go check out the Bold Predictions article, Jay Felicio, congratulations, the announcement over at The Athletic now, writing part-time.
Yeah.
So, good Congrats. Up for him. I do mention Jahan Dotson in the Bold Predictions, by the way.
And he's a stud.
And I was waiting for the vitriol of the player I compared him to because there's few that get better than the player I compared him to. So let's just leave it at that. We'll talk about that for another day.
Big fan. Another touchdown? This guy's played 12 games and 8 touchdowns. He scores.
You'll see who I compared him to. It's I'm not saying he's going to be him.
We'll
put it this way. A little sneak preview hint. If he's just 70% of said player at his peak, he still finishes as a top 10 wide receiver. That's how good said player is.
And I know I don't want to spend too much time. I want people to go check out their article, but I just love all the different ways that they use him. Just 4 fewer red zone targets than Terry McLaurin, played 5 fewer games. Among the leaders in ADOT,
end zone targets last year, and end zone. Here's led the team in end zone targets and touchdowns. he had, I think it was like 8 and 5 or something. The next closest, McLaurin had 7, but he only had 2 touchdowns.
Right. And tied for the most touchdowns among rookies. And again, missed some time. Like he really did miss a big chunk of time and then was limited when he came back. But yeah, I mean, among the leaders in ADOT and yards per catch, I mean, I know you took him right before me, you little. I was just bummed. Yeah.
I'm going to have Dotson everywhere, of course. Yeah, next. I got to figure out a team name for Jahan Dotson. I initially made it Bijan for men, like Dijon for men from Friends. But like,
I do like that. Yeah.
Maybe made the cowboy face. But so one more running back I definitely want to get to before we get out of here is Najee Harris. Like, so we talked about the inefficiency compared, and everyone's like, oh, Jalen Warren looks so much better on the field, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. And then we got some talk about Jalen Warren potentially being used more, and that, you know, Mike Tomlin might not be the bell cowiest guy that we've ever seen this year. It might change a little bit. Because, well, you know, we always talk about Doug Peterson for the longest time. It's, committee. It's, backfields, everybody gets touches. Until you had somebody like Miles Sanders, and Miles Sanders in his rookie season actually wasn't truly a bell cow, but he was the clear lead. Things can change for coaches depending on the talent they have. But Jalen Warren's use was with the first team offense. It was about an even split between them. Should we have Najee Harris concerns coming out of that game? Because I'm not yet there, Meaney, but at least maybe want to watch week 2 very closely.
Yeah. The thing with this whole backfield is that Jalen Warren's good. Like he is, I could see scenarios where maybe Najee is really struggling, and then, you know, Tomlin throws out Jalen Warren and he gives a bit of a spark to the offense, and maybe he rides the hot hand a little bit with Warren. I'm still not, I'm still kind of with you. Like I'm not overly concerned about Najee Harris. I feel like at the start of last season, he didn't look that great, but he was hurt. And when the offense turned to Pickett, and again, we saw another Pickett to Pickens, and get used to that. I think that the offense flowed a little bit better, and I do believe that this is a run-first team. I think that this team will be a run-first team. They're going to want to run the rock, slow the pace down, rely on their defense. I don't think Pickett's going to be a guy that chucks the ball 40-plus times on average. Like, I do believe that they're going to run the ball. So that I think Warren's a good pick. I'm not bypassing Najee.
If he threw 40 times, he might get 250 yards.
He may have a game with 2 passing touchdowns. He's yet to do that in his career. I know it's just we're really hating on the guy, but
no.
I like Warren. He's a good back.
Something you buried in there. Pickens wasn't always on there for the first team. He was mixed in. Allen Robinson mixed in a little bit. Like this one, that again. I'm going to be watching the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm not worried either, but I am worried about potential use. That's what it comes down to. Like, I'm not that actual worried about Najee Harris because he's a volume running back, but if the volume is gone, then I'm concerned. I'm not that worried about Pickens and Allen Robinson as a player comp, but if Allen Robinson, if he's going to play rotational wide receiver situation, then I have a little bit concerned because if you only have 2 on the field,
sure,
what are you doing? Like, what are we really rotating Pickens off the field? Are we really rotating Deontay? Deontay Johnson's been one of the best values, but if he's coming off the field, like that's my biggest. You talk about, you said it. So the Steelers' offense probably not going to run the highest plays in the league. Probably going to be more like towards bottom 10, maybe middle of the pack. So you take that, and then you factor in what if it's 1/3, they're coming off the field, and now instead of getting 55, 60 snaps, they're getting like 40. That's what I'm saying. It's just at least something to watch.
Absolutely agree with you. I do have some concerns. I'm such a big Pickens fan. Like I really I think his ceiling is extremely high. But what you said, right? Is there a rotation? His targets did come down slightly when they moved from Trubisky to Pickett because I think they were really more run central. I'm looking at Warren's game log, and I know he balled out towards the end of the season too. Like a couple games of double-digit carries, he caught 28 passes on 33 targets. Najee was that 70 catch as a rookie, but that was all just dump offs. So maybe I don't know, maybe this turns into 60-40. And if that turns into 60-40, Najee, it's a little bit of an uneasy feeling taking him as RB14.
Uneasy feeling drafting anybody on the Steelers at this point. If it's like that, if it's split backfield and rotational wide receivers, it's going to be kind of a messy season. But we got to stop for today. Reminder, go please review again. Write the review. Like that's where you put your name, your handle in to enter the contest and resubscribe. We got to get that all back from the good old iTunes. We're going to be back on Wednesday again at 10:30 to go through the rest of the stuff. Like, oh, by the way, Isaiah Hodgins didn't have the night off. Some other people did. New tight end, Question mark for the Broncos? Like,
oh my goodness, yeah.
And then probably the biggest one that we didn't get to today, Christian Kirk, major concerns from week 1. Again, only week 1. We're going to dive into that. I want to give more time for that one on Wednesday, but we're going to do all that. Follow Chris Meaney at Chris Meaney. I'm at All In Kid, and we will hopefully see you on Wednesday. Goodbye, fishing. Phew. Waterfalls. Yay.